Hello, friends. Welcome to the Salem Mason Happy Home YouTube channel.
Hello. The other half.
I, the Mason, he, the Salem.
Yeah.
So, what I want to talk to you about today is paranormal. Now, regardless of whether you know this about me or not, I was born with certain psychic abilities. I'm a psychic medium. I channel. I can communicate with all kinds of ethereals, dead people, elementals, not so much. But all the others, the ethereals, those things that have never been human, poltergeists, angels, demons, blah, 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 and dead people primarily. I've been able to communicate with them. I've been able to channel them. I've been able to help them cross over because that's why you're born with those abilities. Okay, that's point number one. Number two, I have had these abilities my whole life. So I have 60 years of experience. And I did spend a good 20 years apprenticing under a psychic to enhance my abilities, to understand them, to educate myself. And I have been doing paranormal investigating for over 3 decades. And my professional name is Piac-Minnesota Paranormal. Now, I did go into retirement a few years ago because, we've been dealing with a lot of crazy stuff here. Douglas's assault, the pandemic, moving into working from home. We took in a renter when we lived in the cities, and it was nuts. There was just so much going on, and the only time that I had available to do investigations was on the weekends when Douglas was available, because safety is an issue. What I want to talk to you about today is you can throw a stone and hit a paranormal team of some sort. Everybody's a ghost hunter. Everybody wants to go and do this. Well, I really have such a difficult time with them, and I want to tell you why. They're not serious. Most of them aren't. They're just young kids, young adults trying to get jump scares and clicks on their YouTube channel. They have no real psychic abilities, which you really should have. And they don't go into it with a professional, mature attitude. They go into it for the jump scares and the clicks on YouTube. A lot of the organized teams, the more popular ones, the more mainstream ones, they are actually controlled by producers, and they are given scripts, and they always have a specific pattern to their investigations. And there is one team, though, I want to kudos where kudos is due, and we just watched a trio of young men. They're called Paranormal Quest. Check them out on YouTube. What I liked about them is they didn't go into this intending to defraud anybody, to say, oh, I've got all these abilities, I know what's going on. They went in there genuinely and sincerely with caring, respect.
No bumps in the night.
No, and dignity. And dignity for the departed that they were trying to communicate with. And they did a really good job. And we're going to, probably watch another one here and see how well they do. In the beginning, when there were teams, the male-dominated teams of paranormal investigators, they would rush around cemeteries, swearing at ghosts, threatening, antagonizing entities, and you know what? That is absolutely unacceptable. And going out there laughing and making jokes is unacceptable. Going to an investigation for jump scares and clicks is childish and unacceptable. I will say that Stephen Shippey, I love him. He does a very good job too. I find him to be very dignified and professional in his work. And of course, Omar, he's another one, and he has some genuine ability. He is a ghost magnet, really enjoyable to watch. So kudos where kudos are due. But when you go into an investigation, there's so many things that you need to be careful with. And when I went into retirement, one of the issues that I had was we kept getting nonstop phone calls from people wanting help. And the phone calls actually weren't people wanting help. They would want to scream, holler, rant, and rave and carry on. And then when you would try to talk to them, they would talk over you, they would interrupt you, they would tell you you were wrong. And it's like, okay, well then why are you calling me for my advice and for my abilities, for free no less? If you already have, you got all the answers, you don't need me. Go home and get some marriage counseling or mental health assistance. There's a lot of crisis hotlines out there. Or did you fall and hit your head? Maybe you have a concussion. You need to go to the ER. And there's a safety issue involved as well.
And you also have to have me as a debunker.
There's a safety issue when you go to paranormal investigations, specifically to homes that people have called you about and said, hey, my house is haunted. Okay. Don't go alone because you don't know what you're getting yourself into. I had a situation about 3 years ago with a man, a truck driver, that kept trying to lure me to wherever he was.
It wasn't me.
For alleged paranormal activity that was following him down the roads. And I got the worst feeling about this guy. And when I finally said, nope, my husband can't come with me, click, that was it. Okay. So there's a safety thing. People that don't like what you do, there are a lot of unstable people. You have to be able to know the difference between someone that is just an average Joe having a paranormal experience or somebody who has more sinister plans for you. Because so many people are just so uninformed and uneducated and immature. Young girls thinking it's fun to go run through the cemetery at night with their phones. And then some guy calls them up and says their house is haunted, and they think, oh, here we go, the next Amityville. Oh, I'm going to be big.
And you get there boards, the games.
You get there and they're, they're kidnapped, they're abducted, they're trafficked, they're tortured. People are just so uninformed. And it scares me, the level of recklessness that these unserious, inexperienced groups of young people, it's someone's going to get killed. Okay. We do a lot of stuff that's very questionable. People freak out about. We have pendulums and dowsing rods and Ouija boards, and I've got demons locked up in boxes all over my house because we've taken them from hauntings. But again, I have a lifetime of experience. I have 6 decades of experience here, people. So I know how to handle myself. When you go into an investigation, of course, I don't know anything. I ask them not to tell me anything. But they'll almost always start running off at the mouth anyway. And a lot of times people will call you because they are short of cash and they hope their house will be the next Amityville. And they're in it for the wrong reasons. They're also in it because they want to sell tickets like they're a circus. And ghosts aren't circus. They are spirits of human beings that lived and loved and had an impact on this earth. They had family, jobs, passions, hopes. These were human beings, and they are stuck in that house. They're not haunting you so that you can make a buck. They're haunting because they're trying to get your attention. They need some kind of help, and that help ultimately is to get them to the other side.
To the veil.
And if they want to come back after they've been to the other side, great, but they initially have to get over there first. The first thing you have to do is you have to understand that sometimes the majority of the paranormal that you experience is actually something that can be explained through the obvious or through science or mechanics or environment. So there's always a room on a team for a debunker. Now, he can go a little extreme I mean, a ghost could walk up and slap him in the face and he'll find some excuse for it, right?
Nope, it wasn't me.
But but it's important, and he's a really good debunker on a paranormal team because he has a incredibly high aptitude with mechanics, structures, how houses move and shift and work, how buildings settle, the noises they make, what this screw is going to sound like if it's coming loose from a beam. He's going to know the practical side so that you can go in and determine, is it a kid playing a prank? Is it bad plumbing? Is it an electrical goof-off somewhere? He can go in and he can determine these things. He's also very successful with a spirit box, but the spirit box that he has is kind of outdated now, and it's highly annoying. If you are sensitive to noise, you can't be in the same area as him because that thing is just freaking, it's like an ice pick through your ears. It's horrible. Nonetheless, he's pretty good with that. So he's a really lucky find for any girl paranormal investigator who's looking for a lucky find. Yes. And he loves to drive around and take me to different places and, do stuff. The majority of the time there's going to be an explanation, but you always have to keep in mind that regardless of what the reason is for the paranormal activity or the unexplained event, the people that are experiencing it, it's real for them. They are experiencing something, be it paranormal or not, and they need your full attention, they need your respect, and they need you to treat them seriously. And understand that they're going through something that they can't explain or get a handle on, and that's why they're asking you to come in. Now, when you do things for free, which we do, we take after Edgar Cayce, who said that these abilities were not made for profit. We have received some beautiful gifts through the years and some very generous tips from clients who believed that that our services were impactful and deserved some kind of reward, and we appreciate that, but we don't go in asking. And I think that's another reason that we ran into so many frauds and so many unstable people. They're all over the place with the different types of paranormal activities that they could in fact be experiencing.
We even had calls from out of state.
Yeah, I worked with individuals in California, in Colorado, in New York. We've had people, call us and do phone investigations, which is not too difficult for me because when you channel, you can, a phone is another paranormal device that spirit energy can come through.
Radios, lights.
You also have to go in there not afraid. You have to understand that these things are not going to hurt you. Now, they can to some degree, an example being an investigation that my team and I did in the early 2000s in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And we were in a hotel that was very, very active. But there was a situation in a room where a very large light struck me in the head. A rug curled up right in front of me as I was walking and tricked me. I'd been pushed downstairs. I got burns on my hand, like burns that needed treating from a doorknob, because hot and cold burns. And there was such activity in another house, a mattress flying across the room and trying to smother me. My teammates have been hit by doors, struck by lights, blinded, nausea, all kinds of crazy things happen. So there's a real safety issue involved with this. However, you have to go in and understand that you are in control, you and you alone. They cannot hurt you. They are doing this for attention. You find out what the reason is, and you move on. Ultimately, getting them to move on to the other side is the goal. Everybody deserves to go to the other side when they die. finish their business and go to the other side. If they want to come back and be with you as a house ghost or a garden ghost or whatever, they've got to go to the other side first. So let them do that. And of course, there's always the naysayers. You know, you're going to go into a family, you're going to have somebody that insists there's something going on, and the husband's like, no, she's crazy, so we're going to make sure that, you know, you tell her that she's crazy. Well, I'm not going to tell somebody that if they're not. But there have been times that I have been through the years at investigations where I've had to slowly back out of the house and recommend that they go see a doctor because it's obvious that they are not well. But I will say one time we ran into a guy, and we didn't know that he was very autistic, and he was having horrible, violent experiences in the apartment that he and his mother had shared. He was in his 50s, she was older, and she died right there on the couch in the living room. They had a tumultuous relationship, but it was a very codependent relationship. And he was manic, jumping up on the furniture, covering his ears, screaming and hollering. It was very, very challenging, and we'd been there a couple of times. And when he moved to Arizona, he called us because he said everything had started again. Now, a lot of what he was experiencing was his autism and the external reactors in the area, because there's a lot of things that can exacerbate autistic symptoms. So we had to tell him no. We had to tell him that he needed to stop. In fact, we discovered, once we were able to get the information out of him, we realized that his uncle, they were from Ireland. The family was definitely from Ireland. There was even an accent there. They came through. They had an uncle that was in dispute with his side, with the client side of the family, and this uncle had shown up at their door straight from the airport one day and shoved this suitcase in and said, "Here, I want you to have this suitcase." No explanation why. You know, and he'd been disputing with the mom anyway, so it didn't seem right. "Oh, sure, we'll just take it." Well, come to find out, there's common curses in Ireland, and that it was cursed. And once we were able to tag it and remove it from the house, everything stopped. It just stopped like somebody flipped a switch. But when he moved, he said it was happening again. So he might have taken another object that had been cursed, or it was his autistic symptoms. And sometimes people don't want to hear that. People want to hear fame, fortune, legacy, Amityville. They're not in it for the right reasons. And that right reason is that those spirits are in trouble. They're reaching out to you. It might be psychic residue, which can be cleansed and removed from some structures and some land. But ultimately, it's a ghost, and they need you. They're talking to you for a reason. And it doesn't matter the reason. It matters that they've reached out to you. And that's why you reach out to us. So you can leave your comments below if you want. You can check out the paranormal people that I mentioned. And, you know, I don't mind doing investigative if people want to do it. But there's so much ego involved. That was another thing. People would call up, you know, "Hi, how can I help you today?" "Oh, well, you know, I have been communing with spirits my whole life, and this spirit is coming through, and there's okay, well, why are you telling me this?"
Deal with it then.
Yeah, if you got the answers, deal with it.
Yeah.
I mean, it just got to be so awful trying to maintain that. And because I won't go alone to investigations, I had to wait till Douglas was off work, or, you know, Douglas, you know, when Douglas couldn't do anything for a long time. It was very hard. And it got to be where I needed to step away. So I did. But I've had some very successful investigations. I've helped a lot of people through the years, and I'm proud of my record, be as it may. So I closed my business on Google, Piac, Paranormal. But we've been out there, you know, and I might do some paranormal recordings for the Salem Mason Happy Home YouTube channel. Why? Because the paranormal is part of our life. It's part of who we are.
I'm the debunker.
And we deal with everything. Angels, demons, poltergeists, ghosts, ETs. If I run into an elemental, I'll let you know. We deal with it all. In fact, the first night we were here, I mean, literally closed on the house that morning, drove here. About 5 hours later, we're standing in the kitchen, and as we're talking, we're leaning against a wall, and we're talking, and we hear knocking in the wall. It was coming right between us like this. It was like boop, boop, boop. And we looked at each other, and we looked around the wall, because that's what idiots do when, you hear a knock on the wall. And then about a week or so later, I had my security cameras set up, and my dog was laying on the couch, and she was sound asleep. It was broad daylight. Douglas was in the cities. I was downstairs working, and on my video camera I hear bam, bam, bam 3 times. Loud, loud, loud. And I came running up and looking. Nobody was here. Nothing was touched. There was nobody on the outside cameras. There was nobody anywhere. Nobody had come in. Nobody had come out. There was nothing. But then a couple of days later, I'm on this phone talking to my sister on an early morning, standing in front of the child gate that requires physical hand movements to unlock, because it's a safety gate. And I'm standing in front of this gate, and the front door is dead bolted shut. I'm standing at the top of the gate talking to my sister, and all of a sudden, click, click, the front door opens all the way, and then closed. And when it closed hard. I went down to check it, thought that the deadbolt was broken. The deadbolt was completely fine and in place. And the kicker about that door is I can't get it open because it needs adjusting by a locksmith.
What's that?
I locked myself out yesterday. I actually started having an anxiety attack because I had to get up from my desk, so I snuck out to grab the mail. And I couldn't get back in the door.
I had the deadbolt locked.
He was nowhere to be found, so don't listen to him. But anyway, yeah, and we haven't had any experience since. But
the latch was it's been a little sticky.
It needs a locksmith.
It's,
Gee, I wonder where the locksmith is. I just don't have any clue where I could find a locksmith.
No.
He is a locksmith. He was master locksmith. That's how we met. He was a locksmith over at a place that we worked, and I was security. So I had to follow his sexy little booty around and make sure he wasn't doing anything that wasn't legit. But yes, whether you believe it or not, people that experience these things, they're experiencing something. So give them the benefit of the doubt and the dignity, especially when it comes to ETs, because we have had a lot of ET activity here since moving here. And I have an extensive background in ET experiences and interactions, as well as ghosts.
And me, a locksmith.
And he's had an ET episode here or there himself.
Yep, when I was very young.
But my family, we were plagued and harassed by ETs growing up. My mom, my sisters, and my dad and I. And we would stand out in the yard and we would see all this crazy stuff happening to us and above us and around us. And so I grew up in it, and I know that it's real. So give them the dignity. But you know what? If you're just out for the clicks and the jump scares, don't put yourself in harm's way for that. Take up crocheting like those Chinese that hijack the end of your shows on YouTube. YouTube. Take up crocheting. Diamond dots. Trail hiking, something.
And just remember, we're not alone in this world.
We are not alone. And sometimes something unexplainable is going to reach out and touch you. And if you're scared, you don't belong doing an paranormal investigation. And until next time, do good and be good.
Hire a good locksmith next time, too.
If you can find one that actually works.